Three Body Technology sent me an email recently about a new plugin called the Kirchhoff-eq. When I clicked the link, what I saw looked like a ripoff of the FabFilter ProQ. Not to mention the website looked a bit sketchy. And what's with the name? Three Body Technology? It sounds like they sold massage products. But as I was about to click off, I noticed three knobs. And I was like, wait, you got a Neve 1073 and a FabFilter type plugin? Oh, and you can switch it to a pool tech? Wait, this dynamic section has the dynamic section I wish the FabFilter had? I was intrigued, so I downloaded it. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the plugin, do a comparison with the ProQ and the Neve emulation, as well as answer the question, is this plugin better than the ProQ3? Let's go. The Kirtchoff has 32 different filter types. The first 15 are what you would expect on the ProQ. Low pass, high pass, tilt EQs, shelves, bells, etc. But the other 9 bands are where things get interesting. This is where they introduce some of the modeled vintage EQs. You can use the filters of a Neve, Pultec, SSL-E console, SSL-G console, Bax, and more. We will A/B some of these when we get into the comparison section in a bit. One thing to note, the EQ only models the linear EQ curve. They didn't want to get into the business of modeling the distortion, DC noise, etc., and I can respect that. If you want to get that stuff, there are tons of plugins to get that from. Plus, by doing it this way, it allows you to do much more with the EQ, including using some of these vintage models with the dynamic section, which we'll discuss now. So in the Kirchhoff-eq, all filter types can use dynamic functions except low pass, high pass, band pass, and notch, because these have no gain parameters to dynamically adjust. But every other filter type is available. To turn on the dynamic section, all you got to do is click D. What you first notice is the threshold knob, and it has this above and below section. The way that works is when input volume is below threshold, the parameter and below panel will be used. And when input volume is above threshold, the parameter and above panel will be used. This is similar with a two-way compressor expander effect. The rest of the dynamic EQ works much like any compressor with attack, release settings, as well as ratio and range. A few more settings to show you guys really quick. They have this left, right, mid, side section down here with a little headphone. You can click the left, and when you highlight and use the headphone, you'll see that just the left side is activated. So what that's doing is you can use that just to listen to the left side, or if you want to switch over and just listen to the middle section, you can do that as well. So that's a pretty cool effect. Also up here you have phase flip, which is nice to have in a plugin, auto gain on the EQ, and then you notice they have this 117-bit button, which I was like, what the hell is this? Well, the internal processor of the Kirchhoff-eq uses 64 bits, but for those of you who really want to nerd out, can use 117-bit processing at the cost of CPU. But even the designers of the plugin said most of the time 64-bit is enough, and that 117 is very subtle. So it kind of feels like a flex more than anything to me. It does have 2x oversampling to avoid aliasing at high frequencies, which can be helpful at times when you are boosting a good amount. All right, and then you can pick the different phase modes here, and this is really cool. They have minimum, just like the FabFilter, analog, which is a different setting, and then this mix. The mix mode is really great. You can use minimum phase on low frequencies while using linear phase on high frequencies, which is really like the best of both worlds. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. But before we do, if this video is helpful for you guys, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me to keep making these videos. Okay, so we have this vocal from my buddy Trip Carter. And so what I did is I took the ProQ3 and I took the Kirchhoff and I emulated the settings exactly. The shelf is the same setting, the bell and then the low cut is all the same setting. And I just figured we play it. This is at minimum phase as well as zero latency mode. Same thing on ProQ3. And I'll just play it and we can take a listen and see what we think.
It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. 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 It's a heavy head I carry, no lie.
So the good news so far is they sound pretty close to the same. I didn't really hear much of a difference, and so that's a good thing. Now, what I did notice is when I switched this over to mix mode, which, like I said, is a mix of minimum and linear, depending on the frequency, and then I switched this to 2x, I felt like I got a little more clarity in the low end, like it was a little smoother in the lower mids. Let me know what you guys think.
It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. It's a heavy head I carry, no lie.
Just sounds a little bit clearer, a little bit smoother. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. All right, so the next thing I did was I modeled using the Softube 1073 or British plugin to the Kirchhoff using the British settings on theirs. Now, I mean, I'm not sure if maybe they're different models of Neve EQs, but they didn't sound very close. If you see here, this is actually a snapshot of the settings that I did with the Softube. And so in order to get that setting, I actually had to add a bell in here to make it sound the same, or at least look the same. And still it doesn't sound quite the same to me. And that could be the nonlinearities that are in the British EQ from Softube. I'm not sure, but take a listen and let me know what you guys think.
It's a heavy head I carry, no lie. 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 It's a heavy head I carry, no lie.
Seems to be a lot more low end for some reason in the Kirchhoff, and you know, they just sound a bit different. So maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. To me, getting the Kirchhoff might not be so much for the analog emulations, although I do like using the Pultec boost section for vocals sometimes, which is cool. I think the reason I would get the Kirchhoff is maybe more for the dynamic range. So that brings us to the final question. Is the Kirchhoff EQ better than the FabFilter ProQ3? It's really up to you. This thing can do a lot, and if you need a dynamic EQ, it blows away the FabFilter as far as that goes. The vintage EQ curves are cool, but not sure if they are something I'm really looking for when using a clean EQ. Although it is nice to have when mixing vocals. Like I said, I found myself using the Pultec boost quite a bit. However, the ProQ still to me has the edge of being a great EQ that is super simple and intuitive to use. Sometimes having less options with a dynamic EQ is actually good. Let me know which EQ you think is better in the comments below, and if you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also find my courses and presets there too. Talk to you soon.